On a freshly paved road, a group of workers is standing near the curb as a large road grader passes by. Suddenly, one of the grader's massive tires explodes with tremendous force, sending a shockwave and debris flying. The workers are knocked off their feet by the blast. This highlights the hidden dangers of high-pressure tires on heavy machinery. A catastrophic tire failure can be as violent as a bomb. The lesson is the critical importance of regular tire inspection and maintenance to prevent overpressurization or damage that could lead to a deadly blowout. In a narrow alleyway next to a construction site, pedestrians and workers move about. High above, a large blue panel is improperly secured to the scaffolding. Without warning, the panel detaches and plummets to the ground, narrowly missing several people before striking a worker. This incident is a stark reminder of the dangers of unsecured overhead materials. All items at height must be securely fastened, and exclusion zones should be established below to prevent anyone from entering a potential drop zone. At a high-rise construction site, a crane is lifting a load. A worker on the ground, standing directly under the operation, gets his clothing snagged by the rigging as the load ascends. He is hoisted dozens of feet into the air before losing his grip and falling. This tragic event underscores multiple safety failures. Workers should never be positioned under a suspended load, and proper rigging procedures must ensure no loose equipment or clothing can become entangled. Furthermore, this demonstrates the absolute necessity for fall protection equipment when working at height. At a loading dock, two men are attempting to close the rear doors of a large shipping container. As they struggle with the latches, the truck, which is not properly secured, begins to roll backward. One man fails to get out of the way in time and is horrifically crushed between the trailer and the dock. This fatal incident was entirely preventable. The number one rule when working with trailers is to always secure the vehicle with wheel chocks before any loading or unloading activities begin, to prevent any unintended movement. In a large metal fabrication facility, a group of workers is elevated in a makeshift man basket attached to the forks of a forklift. As the operator maneuvers the unstable setup, the forklift loses its balance and tips over, sending the workers crashing to the ground. This demonstrates a severe misuse of equipment. Forklifts are designed for lifting materials, not people. Only purpose-built aerial work platforms, or man lifts, which provide a stable and secure base, should be used for elevating personnel, ensuring proper training and adherence to weight limits. A forklift operator is unloading a tall, unstable pallet of bottled drinks from the back of a truck. As he backs away, the load begins to tip. The driver makes the fatal mistake of jumping from his cab to try and manually steady the falling pallet. But he is instantly overwhelmed by the weight and crushed beneath it. This is a tragic lesson in instinct versus training. The correct procedure is to let the load fall. No product is worth a human life. Always prioritize personal safety and stay clear of shifting or falling materials. In a stone or woodworking shop, a worker is standing near a series of large, heavy slabs that are stored vertically without proper support. When he attempts to move one, it triggers a domino effect, causing the entire stack to topple over onto him. The immense weight leaves him with no chance of escape. This incident shows a critical failure in material storage. Heavy, unstable items like slabs must be stored in specifically designed A-frame racks that prevent them from tipping and ensure they can be handled safely one at a time. In a busy shipping port at night, a straddle carrier is positioning a container next to a tall stack. The operator misjudges the distance and collides with the stack, destabilizing it completely. A cascade of containers topples over, crashing down onto a nearby yard truck and its driver. This highlights the need for extreme precision and situational awareness in container yards. Operators must manage their speed and maintain safe clearance distances at all times to prevent catastrophic chain reactions. During an unloading operation, a worker stands on a flatbed truck next to a massive, unsecured pipe. As workers on the ground begin to move it, the pipe suddenly rolls off the side of the truck, crushing the man standing in its path. This is a classic line-of-fire accident. When handling heavy, cylindrical objects, workers must never position themselves on the downhill side. Loads must be chocked and secured until a controlled offloading process, guided by machinery, can be initiated safely. Inside a factory, a worker stands directly beneath a large metal sheet being moved by an overhead crane with a clamp-style lift. The clamps suddenly fail, and the heavy sheet drops directly onto the worker. The lesson here is absolute. Never, under any circumstances, stand or work under a suspended load. All lifting operations require a cleared area below, and workers should use taglines from a safe distance to guide the load, eliminating the risk of being in the drop zone. In a poorly lit workshop, two men are working on the floor near what appears to be a compressed gas cylinder. Suddenly, it explodes in a massive fireball. Gas cylinders are potential bombs if mishandled. They must always be stored upright, secured from falling, and inspected for damage before use. A man operates a large industrial lathe, leaning over the rapidly spinning chuck. His loose jacket sleeve gets snagged, and he is instantly and violently pulled into the machine, spinning at a terrifying speed before a coworker hits the emergency stop. This is a classic entanglement accident. The number one rule when working with rotating machinery is absolutely no loose clothing, untied long hair, or jewelry. These items can be grabbed in a fraction of a second. Additionally, a chuck shield could have prevented this contact. In a steel warehouse, a worker stands directly underneath a massive coil of sheet metal being moved by an overhead crane. Suddenly, the clamp holding the multi-ton roll fails, and the coil drops, instantly crushing the man below. This is an absolute violation of the most basic overhead lifting rule. Never, under any circumstances, position yourself under a suspended load. Safe zones must be clearly established and enforced. At an excavation site, several workers are standing perilously close to the edge of a deep pit while an excavator works above them. The operator swings the bucket, either misjudging the distance or not seeing the worker below, and knocks one man directly into the excavation. This highlights a severe lack of communication and site control. Workers on foot should never be in the swing radius of heavy equipment, and operators must ensure their path is clear before moving. In a heavy manufacturing plant, workers are gathered around a massive engine assembly being lifted by an overhead crane. The rigging suddenly gives way, and the entire multi-ton apparatus crashes to the floor, shattering on impact and narrowly missing several people. The incident was caused by a catastrophic rigging failure. All lifting equipment, including slings and shackles, must be inspected before each use and rated for a weight far exceeding the load. A crane operator lowers a large bundle of sacks into an open pit in a factory floor. A female worker stands on the edge to guide the load. As the heavy bundle swings, its momentum pushes her off balance, and she falls backward into the hole. Workers should never use their bodies to directly guide a suspended load. Taglines should always be used to control the load from a safe distance, away from fall hazards. Two technicians are working on a large CNC machine. As one of them leans in and touches a component, he receives a severe electrical shock, causing him to convulse and collapse. This points to either damaged wiring or a failure to properly de-energize and lock out the machine before beginning service work. Inside what appears to be a paper recycling facility, a worker is manually pushing material into the opening of a large industrial pulper. He leans too far over the unguarded opening, loses his footing, and is instantly pulled into the powerful machine. A large plume of dust and steam erupts from the machine. This tragedy was entirely preventable. The machine's feed opening must have been equipped with proper guarding and a feed system, like a conveyor belt, to eliminate the need for any worker to be near the point of operation. A worker wearing a hard hat walks backward into the path of a reversing cement mixer truck. The driver, likely unable to see him in the blind spot, continues to back up, striking the man and knocking him to the ground. All large vehicles must be equipped with backup alarms, and drivers should use a spotter when reversing in areas with pedestrian traffic. Pedestrians, in turn, must remain aware of their surroundings. A worker enters the safety enclosure of a large industrial robotic arm while it is still operational. The robot activates, moving swiftly along its programmed path, and pins the man against a stationary part of the cell. Safety interlocks on gates are designed to prevent this. They must never be bypassed. In a garage, two mechanics are working on a large, inflated truck tire that is not in a safety cage. The tire suddenly explodes with catastrophic force, throwing both men across the workshop. Inflating large tires must always be done within a reinforced safety cage to contain the explosive energy in case of a blowout. A worker stands next to a flatbed trailer heavily loaded with stacked steel I-beams. The load, which is not properly secured, suddenly shifts and slides off the side of the trailer, burying the man underneath. All heavy loads must be secured with appropriate chains or straps to prevent any movement during transport or unloading. A forklift carrying a wide metal sheet is positioned partially on a public road as a scooter approaches. Due to the load obstructing the view and path, an unexpected situation occurs as the scooter's path intersects with the carried material. This highlights the critical importance of traffic management when work zones extend into public areas. Using spotters, clear signage, and securing the area helps ensure visibility for both equipment operators and the public, preventing unforeseen incidents. Inside a fenced-off automated work cell, a robotic arm is active on a production line while a worker is present inside the enclosure. The robotic arm, following its programmed path, makes a sudden movement, leading to an unexpected interaction with the individual inside the safety perimeter. This incident underscores the necessity of strict lockout-tagout procedures. Automated equipment must be completely powered down and de-energized before any personnel enter a guarded area for maintenance, adjustments, or cleaning. In a loading yard at night, a forklift operator is loading pallets onto a large truck while a pedestrian walks nearby. As the forklift maneuvers a pallet, its movement creates a hazardous situation where the pedestrian is positioned between the equipment and the truck. Maintaining clear and constant communication between forklift operators and pedestrians is vital. Establishing designated safe zones for drivers and using high-visibility clothing can significantly reduce the risk of such close-quarters incidents. Two workers are near a large industrial press. One worker leans into the machine's operational area to perform a task. While the worker is partially inside the equipment, a sudden mechanical issue appears, causing the press to cycle unexpectedly. Never place any part of your body into machinery that is not properly locked and tagged out. This preventative measure is essential to ensure equipment cannot activate during maintenance or manual adjustments, safeguarding personnel from unexpected machine movement. At a gas station next to a busy roundabout, a chaotic car accident occurs. One of the involved cars rolls backward, out of control, directly into the station forecourt, striking an unsuspecting attendant sitting in a chair. This incident underscores the risk of working near live traffic. Protective barriers, like bollards, are essential to shield work areas from errant vehicles. A large truck reverses toward a loading bay, while a pedestrian walks directly into its path from behind. The driver, with no visibility in this massive blind spot, continues backing up and runs the person over completely. This is a tragic and preventable blind spot accident. Large vehicles must be equipped with functioning backup alarms and cameras. Crucially, a dedicated spotter should always guide a reversing truck, maintaining constant visual contact with the driver. In a busy shipping yard, a man walks across the pavement while completely absorbed by his phone. He fails to notice an approaching forklift and steps directly into its path, getting struck and knocked down. This is a clear case of distracted walking in a high-risk environment. Using a phone while walking in an active yard with heavy machinery should be strictly forbidden. Pedestrians must maintain full situational awareness at all times. A mechanic performs welding work underneath a car on a lift. Sparks from his tool ignite a flammable liquid on the floor, likely spilled fuel, and the vehicle erupts into a massive ball of fire. The mechanic is forced to scramble to safety from the inferno. This is a failure of hot work safety procedures. Before any welding or grinding, the area must be completely cleared of all flammable materials, including liquids, vapors, and oily rags. A fire extinguisher must be within arm's reach, and it is also standard practice to disconnect the vehicle's battery. In a busy workshop, a worker is bent over, focused on a task near a large piece of industrial machinery. Several colleagues are nearby, but no one is supervising the immediate area. Without warning, a massive, vertically positioned component of the machine, likely a heavy press or mold, detaches from its housing. It pivots downward with immense force, crushing the unsuspecting worker underneath its weight. Colleagues rush over in a panic, but the damage is already done. This catastrophic failure points to a severe lack of mechanical integrity and inadequate safety checks. Regular, thorough inspections of all machine parts, especially those under load, are non-negotiable. Furthermore, implementing lockout-tagout procedures during work in close proximity to such equipment is essential to prevent unexpected activation or mechanical failure. Inside a textile factory, several workers move between rows of massive industrial looms. The area is a complex web of rapidly moving threads and rotating components. One worker carries a long metal rod across the aisle. As he walks, the end of the rod he's carrying gets snagged by the machinery. Instead of letting go, he tries to pull it free. The machine's power is overwhelming, and it instantly pulls him off his feet, dragging him violently into the rotating mechanism. His body is pulled completely into the machine as his colleagues look on in horror, helpless to stop the equipment. This incident is a stark reminder of the dangers of loose items and improper material handling around rotating machinery. The key safety lesson is to maintain situational awareness and never fight a machine's power. If something gets caught, the immediate reaction should be to let go and hit the nearest emergency stop. Proper machine guarding should also be in place to prevent contact with moving parts. Two workers are positioned near a large industrial rolling press. One worker, in a blue sweater, leans over the machine's in-feed area, seemingly trying to adjust or clear something while it's operational. While he is leaning far into the machine, the powerful rollers suddenly activate its speed. He is instantly caught and dragged headfirst into the mechanism, disappearing completely between the massive cylinders in a fraction of a second. This is a devastating example of why lockout-tagout procedures are critical. Before any maintenance or adjustment, the machine must be completely de-energized and the power source locked out. Reaching into an active machine is a fatal gamble. In a large fabrication hangar, several workers are gathered around a massive, partially constructed metal hull section. High above, an overhead crane is maneuvering another heavy, curved steel plate. Suddenly, the rigging fails. The multi-ton steel plate detaches from the crane and plummets directly onto the structure below, striking the workers who have no time to react. This incident highlights a catastrophic failure in overhead lifting safety. It's crucial that all rigging is properly inspected and rated for the load. Most importantly, a designated exclusion zone must be strictly enforced directly below any suspended load. At a sorting facility, a worker stands at the base of a steep conveyor belt. His clothing gets snagged by the moving belt, and he's instantly pulled off his feet and carried upwards, unable to break free. This demonstrates the risk of entanglement. Loose clothing is extremely hazardous near conveyors, which must have accessible emergency stop cords along their full length. Two men are feeding large sheets into a green industrial machine. While one worker is positioned at the entrance to adjust the material, the machine's heavy upper assembly suddenly collapses, crushing him against the lower section. This catastrophic mechanical failure highlights the need for rigorous maintenance schedules. Hydraulic systems and structural supports on heavy equipment must be inspected routinely by qualified personnel to prevent such a sudden, fatal collapse. Inside an industrial laundry plant, a worker in a blue uniform is working between two large, rotating machines. He appears to get his arm caught in one of the machines, which then violently pulls him in and spins his entire body around its axis multiple times with incredible speed. Rotating shafts and rollers are unforgiving. This incident shows a complete failure of machine guarding. All nip points and moving parts must be fully enclosed to make human contact impossible. Causes adjacent slabs to give way. Handling heavy, vertically stored materials requires meticulous planning. Ensuring loads are properly secured, using appropriate rigging for the material, and maintaining a safe distance from suspended or unstable items are key to preventing a loss of balance. At a shipping port, a container handler is operating near a tall stack of shipping containers. During a maneuver, the equipment makes contact with the bottom of the stack. The movement leads to a loss of balance, causing the entire stack of containers to shift and give way. Operating heavy machinery requires exceptional spatial awareness. Verifying clearance, ensuring ground stability, and adhering to proper stacking procedures are fundamental to maintaining structural integrity and preventing large-scale incidents in storage yards. In an outdoor lumber yard, a forklift is operating while a pedestrian walks into the area behind the stationary machine. The forklift operator begins to reverse, and an unexpected situation occurs as the machine's path intersects with the pedestrian's. Constant situational awareness is crucial for both equipment operators and pedestrians in a dynamic work environment. The use of backup alarms, mirrors, and designated walkways helps create a more predictable and safer workspace for everyone. At a recycling facility, a worker is inside a large scrap metal baling press, seemingly clearing material. In the background, another heavy machine is operating. An unexpected event takes place when the operator of the other machine drops a load of scrap material into the baler while the worker is still inside. This scenario is a powerful reminder of the absolute necessity of lockout-tagout procedures. Before entering any equipment, it must be fully isolated from power sources, and all personnel must be notified to prevent accidental activation. In a warehouse, a forklift operator is attempting to load a large, crated item onto the flatbed of a small truck. As the operator lifts and positions the crate, the load on the forklift becomes unstable and tips forward off the forks. Load security and balance are paramount in forklift operations. Always ensure loads are centered, stable, and within the machine's capacity. Clear communication and keeping a safe distance are essential, especially when transferring materials between equipment. In a commercial bakery, a worker is cleaning around a large industrial dough mixer. The worker reaches into the machine's mixing bowl while it is still operational. The equipment's moving parts create an unexpected situation, drawing the worker further in. Machine guarding and proper shutdown procedures are non-negotiable safety rules. Never bypass guards or reach into moving equipment for any reason. Always stop the machine completely before cleaning or performing any manual tasks. A worker in a textile factory is making an adjustment to a large roll of fabric as it is being fed into a processing machine. While interacting with the moving material, the movement leads to a loss of balance, and the worker is drawn into the machine's rotating components. Maintaining a safe distance from moving rollers, gears, and belts is crucial. All rotating equipment should have proper guarding and emergency stop mechanisms that are easily accessible to prevent workers from becoming entangled. At a rustic outdoor lumber mill, a worker in a red cap is feeding logs into a wood veneer peeling machine. The machine features large, powerful, and completely unguarded rotating drums. The operator pushes a log into the machine, but as it's pulled in, his gloved left hand follows too closely. Instantly, the rollers grab the glove and yank his entire arm into the crushing mechanism. He is trapped and in agony as his co-workers frantically rush to his aid, struggling to figure out how to stop or reverse the powerful machine before it's too late. This is a brutal example of an unguarded nip point. All rotating machinery must have physical guards that prevent any part of a worker's body from reaching the danger zone. Furthermore, using a push stick would have kept his hands at a safe distance. Inside a massive industrial plant, a worker stands on an elevated platform, positioned dangerously close to a large, rapidly spinning and completely exposed drive shaft. He appears to be performing some sort of task or inspection near the powerful mechanism. In a horrifying instant, a piece of his clothing is snagged by the shaft. With terrifying speed and force, he is violently pulled from his feet, wrapped around the shaft, and becomes part of the rotating mass. The incident is over in seconds. This shows why exposed rotating shafts are one of the most unforgiving industrial hazards. They must always be completely enclosed in a safety guard. Inside a machine shop, an operator leans deep into the work area of a large industrial milling machine to make an adjustment, placing his head and torso directly in the path of the tool head. It appears he failed to properly shut down the machine first. Suddenly, the machine cycles. The massive milling head descends with immense force, crushing him against the workpiece below. This tragic event is a direct consequence of bypassing safety protocols. Lockout-tagout procedures are mandatory for a reason. They ensure a machine is completely de-energized before any maintenance is performed. On a narrow city street, two men are walking next to a building. A third man on the sidewalk tries to warn them, but it's too late. High above, a poorly secured pallet of heavy bags, likely at a construction site, slips from its position. The entire load plummets to the ground, landing directly on top of the two pedestrians and burying them instantly. All overhead work, especially lifting operations, requires the area below to be completely cordoned off to prevent anyone from entering the drop zone. Inside a brightly lit beauty salon, clients are receiving treatments while an employee works at a shelf. The calm is shattered in an instant as a large truck, having lost control on the street outside, smashes through the glass storefront. The vehicle plows deep into the salon, sending debris flying and narrowly missing the terrified occupants who scramble for safety. This shocking incident is a reminder that even indoor spaces can be vulnerable to external traffic hazards, especially those located at street level. In a cluttered workshop, a man works near a large machine with an exposed, rapidly rotating flywheel. He's wearing a loose, untucked shirt, a critical mistake around this type of equipment. As he moves past the machine, the back of his shirt is snagged by the flywheel. He is instantly whipped around with incredible violence, spinning in the air as the machine wraps his clothing tighter and tighter around the axle. His co-workers rush in a panic to shut off the power, but the momentum continues to spin him violently. This is a textbook example of why loose clothing is forbidden around rotating machinery. It can be grabbed in an instant, leading to horrific injuries or death. All flywheels and drive shafts must be properly guarded.